What if, tomorrow, an Iranian ballistic missile strike hits a forward-deployed U.S. military base? This is not a speculative fantasy. It is a scenario war-gamed in Pentagon corridors, based on real capabilities, real deployments, and the cold logic of escalation. We are not discussing moral right or wrong. We are analyzing power, response, and consequence. The initial event is sudden, definitive. Early warning systems detect launches from Iranian territory. The flight time is mere minutes. Despite defensive countermeasures, several missiles penetrate. The impact is not on a symbolic embassy, but on a hardened facility housing U.S. personnel, aircraft, and infrastructure. Casualties are immediate. The world holds its breath. America's response is not a question of if, but of how and to what degree. The political pressure for a devastating counterstrike is immense, but the machinery of the U.S. national security apparatus operates on a ladder of escalation. The first move is not Armageddon. It is a deliberate, calibrated demonstration of resolve. Within hours, U.S. air and naval assets already deployed in the theater are repositioned. Stealth aircraft, likely F-35s or B-2 bombers, are armed and tasked. Their targets are not civilian. They are high-value, kinetic, the very launch sites used for the attack, associated command and control nodes, and key elements of Iranian intelligence responsible for targeting. This is a proportional, direct military response. It sends a clear message. The cost of such an attack will be extracted, precisely and overwhelmingly. Simultaneously, the U.S. moves to isolate Iran strategically. A global diplomatic surge ensues, presenting irrefutable evidence to allies and neutral states, not to seek permission, but to signal the inevitability and justification of the coming action. The U.S. Strategic Command raises its alert posture subtly. Nuclear submarines disappear into the deep. This is not preparation for a nuclear exchange, but a signal of ultimate seriousness. A reminder to all actors, including Russia and China, of the stakes. Iran's leadership now faces its own dilemma. A direct, symmetrical engagement with the full conventional might of the United States is a losing proposition. Their calculus shifts to asymmetric, deniable escalation. They activate proxy networks across the Middle East. Coordinated rocket barrages target U.S. positions in Iraq and Syria. Maritime threats emerge in the Strait of Hormuz, with attempts to harass or seize commercial vessels. Cyber attacks intensify against U.S. financial and infrastructure networks. The conflict has now entered a dangerous, diffuse phase. The initial clear line of attack has blurred into a multi-front pressure campaign. The U.S. must now balance its response. It can devastate Iranian naval assets in the Gulf, but it cannot police every mile of coastline. It can strike proxy militia bases, but it cannot eliminate the ideology that recruits them. The costs, financial, diplomatic, and in terms of blood and treasure, begin their inevitable climb. This is the pivot point. The easy certainty of the initial counterstrike is gone. Washington now faces the true test of strategy. Not the application of maximum force, but the management of sustainable pressure. The goal is no longer a hypothetical victory, but the restoration of deterrence without triggering a regional war that serves no one's interests. The world watches as the world's sole superpower navigates the limits of its own power. We now face the core strategic dilemma. Having responded kinetically and demonstrated resolve, the United States must choose its next rung on the escalation ladder. A full-scale invasion to effect regime change in Iran is off the table. The lessons of the past 2 decades are too raw. The option of a sustained large-scale air campaign targeting Iran's economic infrastructure, like refineries or the electrical grid, carries a severe humanitarian cost and would galvanize regional sentiment against the U.S., complicating allied support. Therefore, the U.S. response likely intensifies in a focused, coercive manner. The financial warfare machinery is unleashed with unprecedented severity. Every Iranian financial institution with any international link is locked out of the SWIFT system completely. Secondary sanctions are enforced against any entity in any country trading with Iran in any significant commodity. The target is the regime's economic lifeline. Simultaneously, covert actions and cyber operations aim to degrade critical industrial and military systems inside Iran. Not with spectacular explosions, but with silent, corrosive failures in refineries, rail networks, and communications. Iran, in turn, pushes its asymmetric tools further. Mining campaigns and critical shipping channels threaten global energy flows. Proxies may launch deeper attacks, forcing the US to consider direct strikes on Iranian soil, targeting the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps leadership itself. A step that crosses a significant red line. The risk of miscalculation spikes. A US aircraft is downed by an advanced Iranian air defense system, sold to them by a major power. An Iranian warship is sunk in a skirmish. Each event demands a response, locking both nations into an escalation spiral. This is where the theoretical power of a superpower meets the friction of reality. Public appetite for a new open-ended war is negligible. The international coalition is fragile. The economic cost of sustained high-intensity operations and a volatile oil market begins to strain the domestic economy. The military, while capable, is stretched across global commitments. Victory is not defined by marching on Tehran, but by achieving a stable, if tense, deterrence. The most probable outcome, after days or weeks of this volatile standoff, is a grim, negotiated de-escalation, likely through back-channel intermediaries. Both sides, having felt the tangible costs, would seek an off-ramp. The US would have re-established, at great expense, the credibility of its red lines. Iran would have demonstrated its capacity to inflict pain and survive. The status quo ante is shattered, replaced by a more hostile and fragile equilibrium. The final takeaway is sobering. In the realm of great power competition, there are no clean victories. There are only managed conflicts, calculated costs, and the enduring truth that the application of power is always limited by the reality of its consequences. This analysis prioritizes realism over entertainment and strategic logic over nationalism. If this approach to understanding power resonates with you, where we examine the why and the how rather than the hype, then your perspective belongs here. A deeper exploration of strategy awaits you at ThinkCell.